In a small dry village, Umudim, where red sand covered everything. The paths, the walls, even the air felt dusty. The village was small, poor, and quiet, but not peaceful, especially not in Glory's house. Glory was just 22, but the way she walked and looked, like someone who had carried too much pain for too long. Her mother had died 5 years ago. Since then, peace has been her life. Laughter too. Her father, Mr. James, used to be kind, a real village man. He farmed, helped others, and shared what he had. But the day his wife died, something inside him went dark. He started drinking. At first, it was just a little, then more, and then it became his life. He stopped farming, he stopped caring, and then he brought home a new wife, Mrs. Linda. She didn't hide her hate for Glory. She made her wake up before the sun, sweep the whole compound, fetch water from the stream, cook food she wouldn't even taste, and work on the farm until night. And most nights Glory went to bed with an empty stomach, lying on a thin mat near the firewood. People in the village saw it. They felt sorry for her, but no one said anything. Mr. James had become a man no one wanted to deal with. Too unpredictable, too dangerous. Then one day Jake came to work for Mr. James. He came from a far town. His clothes were old and his shoes looked like they were falling apart, but his eyes were sharp, focused. He worked hard. He cleared land, planted cassava, and lifted heavy baskets. Morning to night, sweat dripping. But after 3 months, Mr. James still didn't pay him. Every time Jake asked, Mr. James gave the same lie. Next week. After I sell my yam. When I have money. It never came. One hot afternoon, Jake walked into the compound. He was tired. His shirt was soaked. His hands were shaking. "Please, sir," he said, "I need my money today." Mr. James scratched his chin, looked around slowly, and then pointed at Glory. "You want your money?" he said. "Yes, sir," Jake replied. "Then take her." Jake blinked. "Sir?" "My daughter," Mr. James said, still pointing. "Take her. That's your payment." Glory stopped sweeping. Her heart dropped. Her hands froze. "Daddy, please," she whispered. "Shut up," Mr. James barked. "You should be thankful someone wants you." Mrs. Linda folded her arms and smiled. "Let her go. One less mouth to feed." Glory dropped to her knees, begging, crying. But no one cared. No one helped. Not even her neighbors, who stood by and watched from a distance. Jake looked at her. She looked broken. Dust on her face, pain in her eyes. But something about her, he saw beauty, not just outside, inside too. "She's beautiful," he muttered under his breath. "What did you say?" Mr. James snapped. "I'll take her," Jake said quietly. That moment changed everything. Glory wiped her face, entered the house, and packed her few clothes into a black nylon bag. No hugs, no kind words, not even a goodbye from her father. Only her little half-brother, Sam, peeked from behind the wall with tears in his eyes, waving goodbye with small fingers. She followed Jake down the path, away from pain, away from everything she knew. As they walked toward the bus stop, her legs shook. Her mind was filled with fear. She had no idea where she was going, or what would happen. But deep inside, she whispered a quiet prayer. "God, please, let this man be better." They took a loud, dusty bus to the city. The road was rough. Glory sat by the window watching strange towns fly by. She saw trees she'd never seen, significant buildings and noisy markets. So many people, none of them knew her name, but she couldn't stop thinking, where am I going? What kind of life is waiting for me? Jake didn't talk much. He sat straight, looking ahead. Sometimes he looked at her quickly, then looked away. He didn't smile, but he didn't frown either. When they reached the city, the sun was already down. They took a small tricycle to the end of a quiet street, then walked a little more until they reached a black gate. Jake knocked. A few seconds passed, and the gate opened. Glory looked up. The compound was wide. The main house was painted white. Flowers lined the walkway. There was a small fountain in the corner, water gently flowing. But Jake didn't stop there. He led her behind the main house. There they entered a smaller building, 1 bedroom, a sitting room, a small kitchen, and a bathroom. "This is where I live," Jake said. Glory looked around. It was clean, simple, Safe. I got a job as a security guard, he said. The woman who owns this house let me stay here for free. She looked at him, surprised. Really? He nodded. She lives in the main house with her son. She's kind. Glory looked around again. It wasn't big, but it had a roof that didn't leak, a bed with clean sheets, a door that closed. To her, it felt like a mansion. She sat on the bed quiet for a while, then whispered, "If this is what God planned for me, I accept." Jake looked at her. "Are you okay with this?" She nodded. "Yes, I feel calm. I haven't felt calm in a long time." The first morning in Jake's small house, Glory woke up slowly. For the first time in years, no one shouted her name. No one kicked her awake or threw water on her. There were no brooms in her hand, no list of chores waiting. Just silence. A soft kind of silence that made her heart beat calmly. Sunlight slipped through the curtain, warm and gentle. She sat up and looked around. The room was small but clean, safe. The walls had no cracks. The roof had no holes. She got out of bed, stretched, and walked into the kitchen. There he was, Jake, standing by the stove turning something in a frying pan. He turned and smiled. "Morning, Glory." She was shy. Her voice was soft. "Good morning." "I made some eggs," he said. "Hope you slept well?" She nodded. "Like a baby." They laughed, not too loud, just enough. After breakfast, Jake said, "Get ready. I want you to meet someone." "Who?" she asked. He just smiled. "You'll see. Wear something simple." She put on the gown he had given her, the one from the second-hand market. She brushed her hair, tied it back, and stepped outside with him. They walked the small path from the boys' quarters to the main house. The flowers along the way looked fresh, and the air smelled like morning. At the door, Jake knocked. A few seconds later, a woman in her late 50s opened it. She had soft eyes, skin like cocoa butter, and a wrapper tied perfectly around her waist. "Good morning, Ma," Jake said. "Good morning, Jake," she replied with a smile. Then she looked at Glory. "And who is this lovely young woman?" "This is Glory," he said. "My wife." The woman raised her brows slightly, but her smile grew warmer. "Ah, so this is the woman you've been talking about." Glory's cheeks flushed. She lowered her eyes. "Good morning, Mom." "You're welcome, my daughter," the woman said kindly. "Come in, come in." The house was bright and clean. The chairs were soft. The curtains are wide open. A sweet smell filled the air, vanilla and fresh soap. "I'm Mrs. Walker," she said, "but you can just call me Ma." "Thank you, Ma," Glory said. "You have a calm spirit," Mrs. Walker said. "I like that." After some small talk, they returned to the boys' quarters. Glory cleaned the kitchen and swept the room. As the sun dropped behind rooftops, she sat on the edge of the bed thinking. Jake was fixing a loose screw on the wardrobe. "Jake," she said. "Yes." "Can I tell you something?" He stood and turned to her. "Of course." She didn't look up. Her fingers played with the corner of her wrapper. "The day my father told you to take me, I felt like trash. Like I didn't matter. I was scared. I thought you'd be like him. Or worse." Jake sat beside her, silent. "I thought maybe once we got here, you'd shout at me, or hit me, or something worse." She paused, then looked at him. Her voice trembled. "But you didn't. You gave me peace. You gave me food. You gave me space. You respected me. You even made me laugh." Tears welled in her eyes. "Thank you." Jake reached for her hand, holding it gently. "I would never hurt you, Glory," he said softly. "That's not who I want to be." He paused. "I liked you the first day I saw you on the farm. I wanted to ask your father for your hand, but I had nothing. I was afraid he'd laugh in my face." She looked at him, surprised. "So that day when he offered you like that, it broke my heart. But part of me was also thankful. It felt like a door opened." She was quiet. "I don't love you yet," she said honestly. "I know," he replied quickly, "and I'm not rushing you. But I like how you treat me, like I matter, like I'm not a mistake." He smiled. "That's because you aren't. You're a queen. You just grew up in the wrong palace." She smiled too, tears falling again, but this time from something better. Respect, safety, care. Something new was growing between them. Maybe not love yet, but something just as important. 1 week later, life had begun to feel almost normal. Glory had settled into a rhythm, sweeping, cooking, helping with Jake's laundry, and keeping the boys' quarters clean. But it didn't feel like it did back in the village. Here, no one shouted her name. No one told her she was useless. Everything she did now, she did by choice. Then something happened. It was a bright, sunny afternoon. The sky was clear. Glory had just finished sweeping the back compound when she heard her name. "Glory?" Mrs. Walker called gently from the main house. "Yes, Ma," she answered, walking over. "Come and sit with me." Glory sat beside her on the bench, wiping her hands on the edge of her wrapper. Mrs. Walker turned with a smile. "You know, I've been watching you. You're neat, respectful, and hardworking." Glory blushed. "Thank you, Mom." "My cook left for abroad last week," she said. "Her daughter got married in Ghana, and the whole family moved." Glory nodded slowly. "I've been looking for someone I can trust to replace her, and I think you're that person." Glory blinked. "Me?" Mrs. Walker smiled. "Yes, you. You already help around the compound, and Jake says you cook very well." Glory's heart thudded. Her voice shook. "Thank you so much, Ma. I don't know what to say." "You deserve it," Mrs. Walker said. "You've earned it." Glory folded her hands in her lap. "Ma, can I tell you something personal?" "Of course," Mrs. Walker said warmly. "I want to go to school," Glory said, her voice soft. "I stopped after secondary school, but I love learning. I want to study nursing, or maybe education. I want to go to university." Mrs. Walker reached for her hand. "That's a beautiful dream. I love girls who want to learn." "Thank you, Ma," Glory whispered, holding back tears. That evening, as soon as she got back to the boys' quarters, she called out, "Jake!" "Jake!" He ran out, alarmed. "What happened?" She beamed. "Guess what?" "What?" "Mrs. Walker said I should be her new cook." "You're joking." "I'm serious." Jake's smile stretched wide. He pulled her into a hug. "That's my wife. Hard work is paying off." Glory laughed. "She said she'll pay me every month." "God is good," Jake said. "This is just the beginning." She nodded. "I told her I want to go to school." "What did she say?" "She hugged me, said she loves girls who want to learn." Jake looked at her with pride. "You're going to be somebody one day, Glory." She wiped a tear. "And you believed in me first." That night they lay in bed side by side. The fan hummed gently overhead. "Jake," she said. "Yes?" "Why haven't you ever touched me?" He turned, surprised. "I mean, we live together. We sleep in the same bed. Most men would have forced me already." He sat up slowly, leaning against the wall. "Because I didn't marry you to use you." She watched him. "I brought you here to love you, to give you peace. I want you to give yourself to me one day, but only when your heart is ready." Glory's eyes filled with tears. "I know you've never been with any man," he said. "I can tell. You carry shame like it's tied around your waist. Your father broke you, but I won't. I see you, Glory. I really see you." She didn't know what to say, so she reached for his hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't know how much that means." "I want our love to grow slowly," he said. "Like a tree. Strong roots first." Glory smiled. For the first time in her life, someone had seen her pain and didn't run from it. 2 days after starting work in Mrs. Walker's kitchen, Glory felt like her old life was finally behind her. Every morning she tied her wrapper tight, cleaned the kitchen, boiled water for tea, and prepared breakfast just the way Mrs. Walker liked it. Light, fresh, with a small bowl of fruit on the side. It was simple work, but it filled her with pride. For the first time, she felt like she was becoming someone. Then something strange happened. That morning, Glory had just finished slicing vegetables for soup. She was humming softly to herself. The kitchen was quiet, peaceful, until the door creaked open. She turned. A tall young man stood at the doorway, with smooth skin, braided hair, and a wide, easy smile. He leaned on the frame. "So you're the Glory my mother keeps talking about?" She nodded slowly. "Good afternoon, sir." "Please," he said, walking in. "Don't call me sir. Just Brandon." Brandon, Mrs. Walker's only son. Glory dropped her eyes back to the chopping board. She didn't like how he looked at her, his eyes slowly sweeping her up and down. "You know," he said, "my mom said you were beautiful, but she didn't tell me you looked like this." She stayed silent. "I mean, wow, you're something else. The way you move, the way you cook, it's special." "Thank you," she replied quietly, still not looking up. He stepped closer. "I like you. You should smile more. That face deserves to be seen." Glory gripped the knife tighter. She didn't feel safe. She just wanted him gone. Eventually he left, still smiling. That evening, when she returned to the boys' quarters, Jake was outside on a small bench. "You're back," he said. She nodded and sat next to him, quiet. "What's wrong?" he asked. She looked around, then leaned in. "Something happened today." "What?" "Your madam's son came into the kitchen. He was saying things." "Like what?" "He called me beautiful. He told me to stop calling him sir. He said I looked like someone God made on a special day." Jake raised his brows, chuckling lightly. "Ah, Brandon. That boy likes to talk." "It wasn't funny," she said gently. "He made me feel uncomfortable." Jake noticed the unease in her eyes. He held her hand. "If he ever crosses the line, you tell me. I'll handle it." She nodded. "I just don't want any trouble." "You won't have any," he said firmly. "Not while I'm here." But trouble wasn't finished. A few days later, Glory was stirring soup on the stove when she felt eyes on her. "Brandon," he walked in. Same smile, same charm. "Glory," he said. She turned. "Good afternoon." "I've been thinking," he said. "Let me be straight with you." She turned off the stove. "I like you. I mean it. You're beautiful, smart, and hardworking. You don't belong in those boys' quarters. You belong in a big house, like this one." Her eyes narrowed. "I'm not here to waste your time. Say yes to me. I'll change your life. I'll sponsor you. London, Canada. Wherever you want to study. New clothes, new phone. You'll never suffer again." She stood frozen. "Forget that poor guard," he added. "I could get him sacked or pay him to walk away." She stepped back, voice steady. "I'm not interested, sir." He laughed. "What do you mean? I'm offering you the world. I'm married. I'm focused on my life, my work, and my dream to go to school. I won't throw it away for pleasure." His smile faded. "You're making a mistake." She met his eyes. "Then let it be my mistake." That evening, when she returned home, Jake immediately noticed something was off. "Again?" he asked. She nodded. "This time he offered to send me abroad. Said he could get you sacked." Jake clenched his jaw. "What did you say?" "I told him no. I told him I believe in you." In us, Jake's eyes softened. He pulled her close. "Thank you for standing by me." She smiled. "You stood by me first. Now it's my turn." That night, before sleeping, they held hands and prayed. Not for money, not for revenge, but for peace. The next morning, Glory woke before sunrise. She swept the floor, washed her face, and tied her scarf like always. But her heart was heavy. Smiling had become a mask, something she wore to hide the weight she carried inside. She kept thinking about Brandon, his words, the way he looked at her, and the threat about Jake. And worst of all, she thought about Mrs. Walker, who had smiled at her like a mother. Could she really be trusted? She glanced at the clock. It was early, but she knew what she had to do. She walked to the main house and knocked gently. Mrs. Walker opened the door, surprised. "Glory, my daughter, is everything okay?" Glory looked down, then met her eyes. "Ma, please, I need to talk to you." Mrs. Walker stepped aside. "Come in." Glory sat on the edge of a soft chair, hands clenched tightly in her lap. "It's about your son," she said. Mrs. Walker's expression changed. "Brandon?" "Yes, Ma. He's been disturbing me. He said things that made me uncomfortable." Mrs. Walker leaned forward. "Like what?" "He said he likes me, told me to leave Jake, promised to send me abroad and buy me whatever I want. He even said he could pay Jake off or get him fired." Mrs. Walker went quiet. "I respect you, Ma," Glory continued. "That's why I'm telling you. But I can't stay silent anymore." A long pause. Then Mrs. Walker spoke, calm but different. "Glory, you're a beautiful girl. Maybe my son just sees your potential." Glory frowned. "Ma, Listen, she said, crossing her legs. You're young. You're smart. You deserve more than this life. Maybe consider it. Glory's mouth parted in disbelief. I'm not saying you should leave your husband, Mrs. Walker added, but if you give Brandon a chance, everyone wins. You'll have a better life. Jake will be compensated. Glory stood slowly. Her chest tightened, but her voice stayed strong. With all respect, Mom, I'm not that kind of woman. Mrs. Walker didn't respond. I didn't marry Jake for money. I married him because he gave me respect, because he made me feel safe. When my own father treated me like nothing, Jake gave me peace. Mrs. Walker opened her mouth, but Glory raised a hand gently. I'd rather walk away from this job than stay in a house where I'm not respected. If Brandon keeps harassing me, we'll leave. Without waiting for a reply, Glory turned and walked out. Her chest burned, but for once with courage, not fear. She had drawn her line. Back at the boys' quarters, she pushed the door open and froze. Money, bundles of it, neatly stacked on the table. She stared, then turned to Jake, who sat quietly on the bed. What is all this? She asked. He stood slowly, his voice soft. My love, come sit. She walked over, eyes still fixed on the money. I've been saving this for a long time, he said. Little by little, for my dream, to start my own business. She looked at him, stunned. So why bring it out now? Because today, the way you stood up for me, for us, I knew. You deserve more. I'm serious. And I am too, she said. This is your dream. You worked for it. I won't take that away. But, no, she said gently. We'll use this together. We'll rent a small place. Start your business. I'll help. I'll cook and clean. When the business grows, then I'll go to school, one step at a time. He looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. You're sure? She nodded. Yes, I don't want to stay here anymore. After how they treated us, we deserve our own space, even if it's small. He took her hand, smiling. You're not just my wife. You're my blessing. And you're the only man I want. They hugged tightly. Then came the kiss. Slow, warm, not from pressure, but from love, real and steady. That night, they didn't speak much. They just held each other in silence. Before sleep took them, Glory whispered, Our better days are coming. Jake replied, Yes, my queen. Step by step. The next morning, Glory rose early. She swept the floor, warmed water for Jake's bath, and tidied the small sitting room. But her mind wasn't at peace. It replayed everything. Mrs. Walker's betrayal, Brandon's threats, the money on the table, and her decision to walk away from comfort and stay with love. Jake had left early too. He'd kissed her forehead and said, Don't worry. I'll be back before sunset. But now the sun had begun its slow dip, and he still wasn't home. Just as she sat to rest her feet, there was a knock. She opened the door. Mrs. Walker, and right beside her, Brandon. Glory's heart dropped, but she kept her face calm. Good evening, my daughter, Mrs. Walker said. Good evening, Mom, Glory replied quietly. We came to talk. Glory stepped aside. They entered. Mrs. Walker sat, her eyes soft and tired. We came to say sorry. Brandon lowered his gaze. I was wrong. Pride blinded me. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you. Mrs. Walker nodded. And I failed you too. You stood up for yourself with Linda, and for Jake too. Glory listened in silence. You are a rare kind of woman, Mrs. Walker continued. It's not easy to walk away from money, from comfort. But you chose love, loyalty. Brandon added, Jake is lucky to have you. Glory's expression softened, but she said nothing. Then Mrs. Walker said something odd. We called you our wife yesterday, and we meant it. You're part of this family now. Glory blinked. Your wife? Mrs. Walker just smiled. You'll understand soon. They stood and left. Glory sat down, stunned. What did that even mean? Not long after, the door opened again. Jake walked in. She jumped up. Where have you been all day? He looked tired but calm. There's something I need to tell you. She crossed her arms. What now? He took her hand and led her to sit. I'm sorry. For what? He met her eyes. For not telling you the full truth. She stiffened. What truth? He hesitated. Then, Brandon isn't just Mrs. Walker's son. He's my younger brother. And Mrs. Walker, she's my mother. Silence. Glory's mouth fell open. Jake, what? I didn't want to lie, but I needed to know if someone could love me for me. Not for money, not for my family's name. She stood, shaking her head. So you've been pretending all this time? Yes. I've had my heart broken before. Girls who stayed only for what I gave. The moment the gift stopped, they left. So you lied. To test me. I was scared, he said gently. But now I know. You're real. Glory stared, stunned, hurt, and confused. And then slowly, she started to smile. Okay, she said. Fine, I forgive you. You do? But you owe me. He laughed. What do I owe? She poked his chest. A car and a mansion. For all the stress. He laughed harder, pulling her into a hug. Deal. My queen. She giggled. You really fooled me. He kissed her cheek. And you really changed my life. Outside, music floated down the street. Inside, they held each other like home had finally arrived. And for the first time in years, Glory felt whole. Like everything had finally fallen into place. Words spread like wildfire. In less than a week, everyone in the village had heard the news. Glory, the same girl who once slept on kitchen floors and begged for food, was now married to the son of a wealthy woman. When Mr. James heard, he almost choked on his palm wine. He rushed inside, grabbed his phone, and dialed her number. My daughter, please. Forgive me, he said, voice trembling. I was blind. I didn't know God had lifted you. Glory was quiet for a moment. I want your stepsister to come and stay with you in the city, he added. Things are hard here. Glory let out a slow breath. With all due respect, sir, no. Glory, please. I forgive you, she said, her voice calm but sharp. But I want peace, and I can't have that if I'm close to you and that woman. She paused, then added, if it's something serious, you can call me. But don't call me for nonsense, and take good care of your wicked wife. She ended the call, placed the phone down, and looked upward. Thank you, God, for bringing Jake into my life. Years passed. Glory didn't just dream, she acted. She got into university and studied nursing. Just like she'd always wanted. She worked hard, barely rested, but never complained. Every single day, Jake was there, packing her lunch, paying her fees, picking her up when she was tired, helping her revise for exams. Then the big day came. Glory, dressed in her white coat, walked across the graduation stage. The crowd clapped, but one voice rose above them all. That's my wife, Jake shouted. Come here, my beautiful doctor. After the ceremony, he hugged her tight. I'm so proud of you. She smiled through her tears. You believed in me before I even believed in myself. Thank you for never giving up, she whispered. Thank you for choosing me, he said. One quiet Sunday, Jake took her for a drive. They turned into a quiet estate with tall trees and elegant homes. He stopped in front of a massive white mansion with golden gates. Glory looked around. Why are we here? Jake pulled out a set of keys and smiled. This is your mansion, my queen. She laughed. Stop joking. I'm serious. Remember the day you said I owed you a house and a car? Here's the house. She stood frozen. I've been planning this for years, he said. Everything you ever wanted. Peace, safety, a home. She threw her arms around him. Thank you. Then she stepped back. I have news too. What is it? He asked. I went for a test last week. I'm 3 months pregnant. Jake stared at her, speechless. Then he shouted, You're serious? Yes. She laughed. We're having a baby? His voice cracked. She nodded. He lifted her off the ground, spinning her around. God, thank you. Then he knelt and kissed her belly. My baby, Daddy loves you already. Glory smiled. Her eyes shimmered with tears, but her heart was full. From being tossed aside like nothing to standing in front of her own home, carrying her child. My name is Glory, she whispered, and now I finally understand why. Life after graduation wasn't just peaceful, it was purposeful. Glory had become the woman she once prayed to be, Back when she sat in that smoky kitchen, her stomach empty, her spirit clinging to hope. Now, every morning, she tied her hair, buttoned her nurse's uniform, kissed Jake goodbye, and drove herself to the hospital in a small silver car, the one he surprised her with the day after she graduated. At work, she was respected. Patients called her Nurse Glory. Her name was etched on the wall outside her office. Her words mattered. She had gone from invisible to indispensable. But she never forgot where she came from. She sent money to her village, not to her father, no, but to widows scraping by, to girls whose schooling had been cut short, and to mothers dreaming of small shops and second chances. One of her proudest moments came when she brought her half-brother Sam to the city and enrolled him in a good school. The same little boy who once cried behind a wall as she was handed away now lived with her in the home Jake gave them. Sam had his own room. He called Jake Uncle and raced into his arms when he came home from work. Jake had grown too. He wasn't a guard anymore. He started a company that built homes for low-income families. The same hands that once dug cassava now signed contracts and led teams on construction sites. Together, they weren't just husband and wife, they were partners. They were a force. One evening, sitting on their balcony, bathed in the golden light of sunset, Jake held her hand. "Do you ever think about the day we met?" he asked. She laughed. "Every time I sweep." He smiled. "You were tired, covered in dust, still beautiful." "And you were angry," she teased. "You just wanted your money." "I got something better," he said. "I got you." They sat in silence for a while, soaking in all that had changed. "Sometimes I wonder," Glory whispered, "what would have happened if you hadn't said yes that day?" Jake turned to her. "I would have said yes. Every single time." She leaned into him. That night after Sam had gone to bed, Glory stood before the mirror, hand resting gently on her growing belly. Softly she spoke. "Little one, I can't wait to meet you. You'll have a mother who fights and a father who protects." Jake came up behind her, wrapping her in his arms. "We'll give them the world," he said. "No," she replied, smiling. "We'll give them something better. Love, peace, and truth." And that's how Glory's story went. From a dusty village where no one saw her worth to a life filled with meaning, she became living proof that you don't have to come from gold to shine.